And the first of them is Azure Foundry. And to start talking about Azure Foundry, I'm not going to use Azure Foundry. That sounds like a bit of a deal breaker, but let me show you what I mean. What I'm going to do just now is go to portal.azure.ai. .com just now. We'll get to AI. Portal.azure.com. And I'm going to my account. This is my MSDN account that I get from Microsoft to teach courses. There's not a huge amount of money on it, but hopefully enough to show you some of these important ideas. Now, within the Azure portal, you've got access to hundreds of types of resource, I would say. I'm not sure thousands, but certainly hundreds of different types of resources from different vendors across different types of technology. I'm interested just now in Foundry, and clearly I've been using it lately, so it's on my recently used Azure services. But if I just type in Foundry, I can see it there as well. So it's pretty easy to access. Now I do have a Foundry resource already created, but I'm just going to create another one just to take this through step by step. There's another way to do what I'm just about to do. And in fact, there's an alternative to what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to create a Foundry resource. In that Foundry resource, a project is going to be created, essentially a default project. What I could do is create an Azure Foundry hub and put a project in that. And these are genuine alternatives, and the hub might afford some additional flexibility. It might be a great option for data mining, machine learning, I should say, machine learning, and some other quite specific ideas, like prompt flow, and some fine-tuning options. But what I'm going to use is a Foundry resource quite specifically. So I'll create a Foundry resource, and I'll fill in a form. Like many of these tools, many of these interfaces, we're filling in a form. I'm using my subscription, my MSDN subscription, and I'm adding this to a resource group. Everything that we create in Azure is in a resource group. The resource group gives us an important security boundary. It gives us in some ways, a logical boundary that we can use in terms of thinking of different cost centers, just keeping elements from a particular project or area of interest together. There's various uses of a resource group, and I'm just going to use resource group 1 for no reason other than I know what to get rid of at the end of this demonstration, so I don't need to incur too many costs. Now, the name of this Foundry resource, you can see my imagination in action from previous attempts at this. Okay, let me call it Iain. Good thing about the spelling of my name, I can usually find uniqueness in my name. I'll make it Foundry Live. I'll just put live because we're kind of live. Okay, Iain Foundry Live. When you create a Foundry resource, okay, in a way, there's nothing really to look at. And many resources you create in Azure will start with a kind of enveloping resource. So if you work with Databricks, for example, you'll create a Databricks account, and then you'll go into the Databricks studio to actually work with it. Similarly with Synapse Analytics or storage accounts, you often have this sort of enveloping structure of admin into which you put the content that you're interested in working with and developing. And in this case, it's a project that I need to create. So I'll have a project live, previous attempts there. It might look better if I got rid of them, but yeah, you can see them right there. Iain Project Live. Now, that's not all I need to create this resource. I'm going to click on next, and it says storage for a resource. Well, there's lots of reasons why resources might use storage. If we're using, for example, if we're using our own data to augment queries, augment some of the experience if we're working with predefined question and answer structures where the history of a chat might be recorded. There's lots of reasons why we might need storage. So I'm going to create some storage here. I'll just click select storage account, create a new one. Storage live Iain. The different options there. I'm using local redundant storage really just from a cost perspective. So I have 3 copies of my data in a data center rather than 3 copies across multiple data centers or 3 copies across multiple regions of data centers. Okay, so it's checking the availability with some enthusiasm. There's not usually where, yes. Maybe there's a rush on storage live Iain named resources at the moment. I don't want to change that. It's just checking the availability of that. In sort of IT style, I'll stop it and try it again. Create new. In storage. Okay. Oh, misspelling storage helps because it's unique. Yeah, that's unique as well. Let me go. Create that storage and add it. So, like I said, I'm filling in a form here. In a way, there's not much to see. I'm giving the name of my Foundry resource. I'm giving the name of my default project. And I'm coming up with the name of some storage. What we should do next, when I click next, is spend a bit of time thinking about security and networking and whether we use private networks or whether any network can access this. I'm going to leave these as default just now because the important part of this session is the Foundry resource we actually end up with and what we can do in there. So I'm going to click next through these. So, look on with horror by all means, but I'll just do that for convenience just now. What it's doing at the moment is just checking that what I've done is valid. So it might be I've missed an important setting, or there might be some incompatibility with a region that I've picked and a setting that I'm trying to apply. And I'll create this. Okay, now it shouldn't take too long to create. But what I'll do while it's creating is have a look at another important resource, ai.azure.com. ai.azure.com. This is where we're going to end up. This is where we really work with Foundry resources. We can create them here. In fact, just something to notice, when we create resources in Azure, in the portal, a template is generated. And this could be quite useful for automation of structures. So there'll be a lot of repetition in that, but if I have a look at parameters, that might make it a bit more obvious, especially up here. So I can see the name that I gave it, I can see the region, and other details like that. So when I filled in the form, it's completing this JSON script so that could then be run afterwards to try and automate deployments like this. And that's quite an important, useful feature of Azure. I'll go to home, I'll go Foundry, and I'll see what I've got in here now. Let's see my Foundry resources. So I've got the Iain Foundry live resource that I just created. The location is important. Okay, for what I'm going to do just now, I just took the default. There's a reason why I've picked Sweden Central for what I'm going to go on to do. We'll see that. But I can see my Foundry resource. If I click on it, I can see an invite to go to the Foundry portal, which that's where I want to be working with this. But I can also see my project. This would be the default project that was just created. So I've got that to look at. Okay. So if I was in overview and I click on go to Foundry portal, it should just open, basically this again. Just close that just for convenience just now. And in opening this up, I'll see structure. There is, remember, a default project, and that's what I go to straight away. What I'm looking at here is Iain project. You can see, I'll explain what this is, but you can see, let's say, information about it. This is the project management view, let's call it that. So you can see overview, it says up top. If I look down, I can see management center. And that kind of steps up a level. So this is at the level of the Foundry resource, Iain Foundry Live, within which I've got a project. You can see that structure, right? So I'll go back to the project just so we can have a look at it. Azure AI Foundry is very complete in terms of supporting you building AI solutions. It helps you understand what they are. It advises you in choices that you need to make. It gives you an interface where you can apply those choices. You can select what you need to. And it gives you the ability to deploy what you've done. But it also gives you tools to monitor what's happening. So you can have a look at performance and you can keep an eye on what's going on. It's a very complete whole life cycle product for AI solutions.